Hello, everyone, and welcome to this first episode of Evidence of the Bible. I'm going to see if this works, how well this catches on, see how people like it, and spread the knowledge of the evidence of the Bible and God and that scientists have found. And on this episode, we are going to be focusing a lot on Noah's flood. So, let's get started. So let's start first with the beginning of what the Bible says. It starts off with, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Basically, there has been two different worldviews. You either trust God or you trust man. Basically, it comes down to two authorities. Either you trust God and his authority, or you trust man and man's authority. I don't know about you, but humans have always changed things here and there. They say something is correct, and they change it or discover that it wasn't correct and change it again. Where the Bible hasn't been changed. And a lot of the stuff it has said has been correct and accurate for years and years. Nothing in the Bible has been changed. The Bible was written, and since it has been written, there has been nothing in the Bible where they had to go back and they had to revise, they had to say, oh, we were wrong here, and then go back and change it. Scientists, or science, on the other hand, they say one thing and say that's a scientific fact. It's a fact. But then years later, they find out, oh wait, that was a mistake. Oh, we were wrong on this area or this side or this version, and then they go back and change it. Then they say, okay, now it's a scientific fact. And it's a scientific fact until they find out they're wrong again. Then they change it again. For example, the Bible has stated that blood is the liquid of life. But did you know back then in the 17th century and 18th century, and most likely even farther back, scientists believed that vapors were in the air and would enter our body and go into the blood, and that is what made us sick. Yeah, they believed that vapors, bacteria were in the air, and they entered us, and they would go into our blood, and that's what was making us sick. So they believed in order to make us better, what they would do, what doctors would do, you would call the doctor, and the doctor would come in, and they would actually have leeches or certain tools that would drain the blood. In fact, America's first president, George Washington, bled to death. That's pretty much how he died. He bled to death. He came down with a severe cold, and his doctor drained his blood, and Washington got worse, and they thought it was due to him having too much toxic vapor in his blood. So they trained more and more, and he was getting worse because he was losing too much blood. And they actually thought it was because he had vapors, when it was just he was losing too much blood, when honestly, some good rest and good food was probably all that he needed. If he would have just gotten some good rest, good food, he most likely would have been better. It wasn't until years later scientists discovered this and changed their methods on handling sickness. In fact, many PhD doctors don't accept evolution. That's right, you heard that right. Many PhD doctors don't accept evolution. They believe in the Bible. Most early scientists such as Isaac Newton, Galileo, Leonardo da Vinci all believed in God. Even Albert Einstein believed in God. I remember I was actually having this debate with this atheist, and he told me, he's like, well, Stephen Hawking didn't believe in God. And I told him how Albert Einstein believed in God. He actually had to look it up. He actually had to look it up to see if I was correct, to see if Albert Einstein believed in God. And he found quotes after quotes of Albert Einstein believing in God. And seriously, yeah, look it up for yourself. You can see that Albert Einstein made many quotes about God and how he believed in the Lord. In fact, many people believed in the Bible. It was actually taught in schools. Yeah, many people say that God and the Bible is left schools, is no longer taught in schools. It was taught in schools. It wasn't until 1859, I believe, that is when Charles Darwin published his book called On the Origin of Species by Natural Selection, a book that would oppose the Bible, which had been the prominent book on life. Now, think about that. The Bible had been the prominent book on life, meaning schools taught it. Schools taught about life. When they taught about life, how life came into existence, what did they use? The prominent book was the Bible. So they used the Bible. Then when Charles Darwin published his book, it replaced the Bible, and then suddenly schools started teaching Charles Darwin's version and no longer the Bible. Yeah, then schools started to switch what they taught, talking about the Bible to suddenly giving different times from the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. Again, man switching their methods of teaching when the Bible has been the same. So the schools were using the Bible as the prominent book, and there was no Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. Then Charles Darwin writes his book On the Origin of Species by Natural Selection in 1859, and then suddenly schools and science switches their method. Now they're teaching about different timelines and saying this is fact. You see how the Bible stayed the same, but the humans went from saying one thing's a fact to this is a fact to this is a fact. Makes you wonder what's going to be next on what will be a fact. Now you are probably asking yourself, where is the evidence of the Bible? Where is proof? Well, get ready. There is a lot of proof. Let's start with Noah's Ark, because I said in this video we're going to be focusing a lot on Noah's Ark. The Bible says, if you turn to, I believe it's Genesis chapter 8, verse 4, it says, "And on the 17th day of the 7th month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat." Well, where is the mountains of Ararat? I mean, the Bible talks about the mountains of Ararat. Surely there has to be Mount Ararat somewhere in the world, right? Or at least the mountains of Ararat. I mean, the Bible talks about it. There has to be it. Well, Mount Ararat is modern-day Turkey. That's where it's at. And to this day, it's still called Mount Ararat. Yeah, that's right. Turkey still has that name for its mountain, Mount Ararat. So if Noah's Ark came to rest there on Mount Ararat, shouldn't they have found anything there? You would think, right? Well, believe it or not, they did. I'm going to play this video, so here we go.
They claim to be real-life raiders of the Lost Ark. A group of Chinese explorers say they found Noah's famed boat, and Sydney-siders will be among the first to see inside.
This dark wooden room could rewrite history. The people who found it claim it's a cabin inside Noah's Ark.
We are like 99.9% it is Noah's Ark. Yeah.
A team of Chinese and Turkish explorers say they discovered the giant boat in 2009. It's buried in ice more than 4,000 metres above sea level on top of Mount Ararat in Turkey. The group carefully recorded their expeditions.
Yeah, it's the first time to have the footage.
And there you go. It's kind of hard to refute that. The Bible talks about the ark coming to rest on the mountains of Ararat. We find there is such a mountain with that name, and they find a huge ark on the mountain, exactly as the Bible describes. That's like an ancient book talking about a lost treasure, telling where the treasure is. and you go to the spot, and guess what? You find the treasure. It's hard to deny it, right? Well, there are still people out there who will. Even though you ask them if the lost city of Troy was real, most likely they will say yes, it's real. It's been found. Oh, in case of any of you didn't know that the famous city of Troy, where the Trojan War took place, and people like Achilles and Odysseus fought in the war, was found, it's been found. It's been made into a museum, I guess a national park, and they built the Trojan horse replica. People can go in and experience, then tour the city. You know what's interesting? Troy was found, and guess where? In the country of Turkey. Noah's Ark was found, and guess where? That's right, in Turkey. Who knows what other treasure is in Turkey? But let's dig deeper and talk about the flood and what the Bible says and scientists have said. What evidence there is that a worldwide flood actually occurred. Yes, there is actual evidence that a worldwide flood happened, and scientists have found it, and there's evidence to this day left behind. Evidence that is not taught in schools. In 1858, a scientist, a geographer named Antonio Snider Pellegrini, I hope I'm saying that right, Pellegrini, proposed that the continents moved apart during the flood, indicating that the continents were all together at one point. But the Bible talked about this in Genesis chapter 1 through 9. It says, "And God said, Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so." Think about that. It says, be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. It didn't say let it all be separate and let the lands appear. No, he said together, which means the land, the continents, were all together as in one supercontinent. And in 1858, this geographer, Antonio Snider Pellegrini, proposed this idea. And it wasn't until 1915 that the concept that he proposed was considered. Yet here the Bible said it the whole time. So the Bible talks about a supercontinent existing. And Antonio Snider Pellegrini, I know I can't say that name, it's a long name, proposes the idea. Then in 1915 the idea is considered. Interesting, right? We'll get into how this happened and how the flood happened and the continents were separated in part 2, and talk more about how there's evidence all about this, even to this day. If you are enjoying and you would like to learn more, please subscribe and hit that like button. And as always, please share the good news. And God bless.